I want to take some questions. You remember, you sent me an image on Messenger with the 5 pillars of Islam. Can you just say something about this and what that means to you, and actually what Islam means to you at this point? Because 3 years ago, you're an engineer. You were pretty secular, and so your faith has emerged in a different kind of way these past 3 years.
Okay, so we have the 5 pillars of Islam.
And what I want,
As-salat, which is a prayer. We pray 5 times a day. Al-zakat, which is giving. There's some equation that rich people, when they have enough money, that they have it in a bank for a year, total fiscal year, then they have to pay some of the money, let's call it tax, to the poor. So this is kind of a system that was developed in Islam for the rich to help the poor. Hajjul Bayt, Hajj is the pilgrimage to Mecca. Shahadat an la ilaha illallah, we acknowledge that there is only one God, and Muhammad is his messenger, the final messenger. Every Muslim will abide by these 5 pillars of Islam. So this is basically what Islam is about.
And how about you, though? What's it mean for you?
For me, fasting, Ramadani fasting. Fasting, it's a kind of discipline to the body. We fast from sunrise to sundown for 1 month. And it's like a discipline. You feel how the poor, they feel when they don't have food. It's a detoxing of your body. There's so many benefits to fasting. Praying, I pray 5 times a day. I did not used to pray when I was young, but I started like 20 years ago. We have the prayer in the morning, sunrise. Then we have the noon prayer. And then in the afternoon, sundown and Isha, which is like 2 hours after. And remember, you listen to the sound in the mosque when they call for prayer. Uh-huh. For zakat, I used to pay for zakat when I was working. Now I am unemployed. So I'm not doing zakat now because I don't have what should be given. So I don't do zakat. Hajj, I've never been to Mecca. I wanted to go, but I've never been there.
How has Islam opened your heart since the accident? And I should say to the class, Bassem, there are many things that he could call, how he could label the bombing that killed his family and destroyed his home, but he prefers to use the word the accident. Maybe you could say why you prefer accident, but also how has Islam opened your heart?
Okay, so I was born Muslim. I've been Muslim all of my life. But since my accident, I was in Baghdad for like a year and a half on crutches. And I kept thinking that there must be a really, really supreme power that saved me. Because I was in bed next to my late wife, and there was about a foot between us. She was killed, and I was spared. So it kept me thinking, there must be a reason for me to stay alive. So for the first time, after a year after I came back from Turkey, for the first time, usually here in Ramadan, we read the Quran from cover to cover, and which I have never done before. And that year I did. So reading the Quran, you learn so many things. And after you read it once, there are so many complicated verses in the Quran that we have an explanation attached to the Quran. So I will go back, read it. And sometimes even the translation, I don't understand it. So I call somebody. So it really got me closer to my religion. My faith grew stronger because I knew I was saved for a purpose. Like I was saved maybe for my son. My son was in Baghdad at that time. He left Mosul immediately after ISIS invaded the city. Maybe God saved me to be with my son so he won't lose both parents. That's how my faith got stronger.
We, the United States, offered you remuneration for the death of your 4 family members and for your house. And what was it that the United States offered to pay you?
Okay, after I filed my case with the United States Consulate in Baghdad, about 7 to 8 months, I received an email from the United States Department of Defense, and they wanted to meet with me, so they met me here in Erbil. And they offered me what they call a Sociology payment, which is saying sorry. And the amount they offered me for the death of my daughter and my wife was $15,000, which I rejected, of course, because I thought it was a disgrace to offer this amount for the loss of lives and property and loss of my job, the damage to my pelvis and health. So I rejected that amount.
So $15,000 for the lives of your wife and your daughter and your house.
Yeah, for the house, for my car, 2 cars, and for the house and for the loss of my income and total.
What is the price? What does the United States usually pay when we kill an innocent civilian? Is it $2,000?
$2,500. $2,500. Because I spoke and I reached out, they said it was an exception in your case, and you were offered 3 times the usual amount.
And that's also to
For
cover
per
your
person.
house. Yeah, because we never pay anybody when we destroy their house. Another colleague, Mr. Rashidi from Afghanistan, who is listening. Hey, tell us, what do you hear from Bassem? What does Bassem teach you? This gentleman right here, in all of my travels around the world and all the people I've ever met in the United States, this person is the kindest, most gentle, most loving human being I've ever met in my life. He lives in Kabul, Afghanistan. Bassem is the second most loving, actually. But this guy's the most loving, right? So, Mr. Rashidi, tell me what you hear from Bassem. What do you get from him?
Bassem is not an athlete only for me. It's a lesson for all people who live all over the world. And I learned a lot from Bassem, from his talking. Never I directly to speak to Bassem, but I heard from this class. He's an athlete for me, and I love him. I like to be like Bassem.
My friend, you are very much like Bassem. Okay, because I've learned.
Thank you, Sam.
I learned to love from you and from Bassem. So you have many more things to teach me. But
Sam, I want to add something about Islam and religions. Every human, we all come and we are human if you have time. But religion come to teach us for being good. But we use the religion against humanity. Yeah, it's not what the religion says. I read many books, many holy books, and Quran. The whole says being good, being a good human, but now it's used against humanity. The extremist group use them like ISIS and far rights. Yeah, they feed each other. Yeah, and all over the world. In our country, when someone goes to the United States, they say, if you go to the United States, you will be killed by the people in the United States. The same, it's told to those people who live in the United States, you will be killed if you go to Iraq or Afghanistan or any other country. But it's not like this. There are many people who like all the people. I think you don't have time, Sam. I will come one day, another day, and I'll talk.
yeah, thank you. I think your message is very powerful. It's not the holy text. It is how people take that holy text and use it for their own purposes.
I'm being asked by the stream about 800 times if we can talk about homosexuality in Islam, because every time that it's brought up, they always, like especially Americans will say, well, Muslims just throw gay people off buildings and that's what they believe. Like, that's it. That's
okay.
And then the conversation ends. As a person who has met Bassem in person, when he came to the U.S. a year ago, I actually drove to the airport, picked him up, and we talked for hours. And he's very, very aware that I'm gay, and it does not matter to him. And I don't know if either one, if Mr. Rashidi or Bassem, if you want to comment on the difference between your personal belief and your religious beliefs, or how you see it, but it's being brought up time and time again.
Just like Mr. Rashidi said, we need to go back to our exact religion, don't use it to our benefit, and leave the good part out of it. We are all sons of God. We love each other.
Woo-hoo!